Hello, and welcome to your channel and my channel, that is Talk in English with Shilpi. So, today in this, I'll start with the Shakespeare's Macbeth, which has been prescribed for this year for class 9th and 10th, that is 2023 to 24 academic year, and 2024-25. So, I'll begin with Act 1. And before I go on to the speeches and explain the speeches, let me give you a summary of the entire Act 1. So, what is Act 1 all about? Let me first introduce the plot or the setting of this play. This play has been set in Scotland. Scotland is a part of Great Britain, as we all know, and it is in the northern part of Great Britain. So Scotland and is very close to Ireland also. Scotland has been a part of the British Empire, but for some time it even was rebelling against it and was, independent kingdom. Now, Scotland is a place of natural beauty. It's a mountainous area, lot of snow and mountains and hills, and there are also greeneries, lakes, rivers, and woods. So why am I telling you this? Because the characters of this play belong to Scotland, and very often you will see that the certain areas of Scotland are mentioned in the play. So first of all, let me introduce the characters also to you. The main character or the main characters rather of this play are Macbeth, of course. He's the protagonist of the play. Banquo, his best friend, and King Duncan, who is the king of Cumberland, and also he is a relative of Macbeth. Then we have Macduff, Lady Macbeth, who is the wife of Macbeth, Malcolm, Dunblane. All these are the characters which are we are going to see in Act 1. In Act 1, we'll see that Macbeth is coming back. He has defeated Macdonald, who has rebelled against King Duncan, and he has been defeated by Macbeth and Banquo. Macbeth is a very brave general in King Duncan's army, and he is also a relative of King Duncan. Banquo is his best friend, is also the general in the army. So they have defeated Macdonald, and as soon as they defeat Macdonald, there is a fresh treachery, a fresh rebellion by the Norwegian king, supported by the Thane of Cawdor. So they even take up that very bravely, and they defeat the Thane of Cawdor and the Norwegian king. So this news reaches Duncan, and he's really, really happy. He knows that, already he knows that Macbeth is a very brave general. And after receiving this news, he's so full of happiness, and, he glorifies Macbeth. And that also he confers the title of Thane of Cawdor on Macbeth. Now, here what happens is that Macbeth has won the battle and is now on his way back to meet the king. On the way, Banquo and Macbeth come across three witches. These three witches, they are seen in the heath. Heath is, bushes, woodland kind of a place. And there they make prophecies for Macbeth and Banquo. What are these prophecies? The prophecies are that they tell Macbeth that he's the Thane of Glamis, which he already is. Then they greet him as Hail Macbeth, Thane of Cawdor, which he is not. So this is a prophecy that in future he'll be the Thane of Cawdor. Then the third prophecy that they make is that Hail Macbeth, King hereafter. So this means that he's going to be king. And these are the three prophecies made for Macbeth. So the witches also make prophecies for Banquo. They tell Banquo that you are lesser than Macbeth, but not lesser. You are lesser, but you are greater than him. You are not happy, but happier than him. Because the third prophecy that they make for him is that you will get kings. That is, you will be the father of kings. So this is the prophecy made for Banquo. Now, after listening to these prophecies, Macbeth gets into a lot of confusion. He's perplexed because he feels I am the Thane of Glamis. That's okay because that is my present. But then the Thane of Cawdor is alive. So how come I can be the Thane of Cawdor? And talking about me as a king, then already King Duncan is there, hale and hearty. Then how can I be the king? So these three prophecies, he's really perplexed, and he for him it is incredible. But then he's also, you can see the ambition in him. The entire play of Macbeth actually it is about the ambition, how ambition of Macbeth is the cause of his downfall. All right, so look at his jealousy, look at his that kind of envy that he has with Banquo. He turns to Banquo and says, oh, you shall be father of kings. So this means, whatever he has, he's not happy. He's not just happy with the prophecies made for him. I mean, he's not he's not like beyond bound of beyond you can say happiness or feeling amazed about it. Rather, he is more concerned that, oh, they told Banco that you will be the father of kings. Now, as soon as he's returning home, he is met by Ross, who brings the news from the king and tells Macbeth that you have been conferred the Thane of Cawdor. Now, when this happens, Macbeth is taken aback and he is like, oh my God, this is the prophecy that the witches made and it has come true. So now what happens? The desire to be king arouses in Macbeth. He is now in a in a dilemma, not in a dilemma rather, but now he is dreaming to become the king. And then he writes a letter to his wife wherein he is informing her whatever happened with him, the incident that happened, that how the witches prophesied for him that he'll be king and that he will be the Thane of Cawdor, which has already come true. So when he reaches home, and then he meets King Duncan, and King Duncan, in the meanwhile, declares his son Malcolm as the Prince of Cumberland. So now Macbeth is a little doubtful that if Malcolm has been announced as the the Prince of Cumberland, this and the heir apparent, then how can he have a chance to become the king? And in the meanwhile, Duncan informs him that that night he would like to stay at at Macbeth's castle. All right, so he tells Macbeth that today I would like to be your guest. So he informs his wife about this, and then they think about of a strategy of murdering King Duncan. Macbeth initially is reluctant to do so. All right, Macbeth doesn't want to do it because he feels that King Duncan trusts him and he's a guest at his place. He can't do this. But then it is Lady Macbeth who actually encourages and strategizes the entire plan in order to kill Duncan because she now believes truly in the prophecy of the witches, and because they feel that if King Duncan is alive, then he may be an obstacle in the path of Macbeth becoming the king apparent. All right, so let's begin with Act 1, Scene 1. Scene 1 is where the witches are talking amongst themselves and they are waiting for Macbeth to arrive. Why do you think that the witches see Macbeth as their potential candidate? Because they know that Macbeth is ambitious and he's also brave. He's ambitious, he wants to grow, he wants to attain a lot of things. So, they feel that Macbeth can become an easy trap for him. Macbeth will fall into their trap very easily. They can always prophesy, they can always lead him onto their path of evil by letting him know, because once he knows that these things are in my destiny, he would definitely make efforts to achieve it. Right? So let's begin. Act 1, Scene 1. The opening scene takes place in a lonely heath amid thunder and lightning. Thunder and lightning are very common in Scotland. Scotland, as I told you, is a mountainous area And most of the time around the year, it is always snowing and thunder and lightning and lots of rain. So thunder and lightning, another reason, is a symbol of something unusual happening, like in horror movies we see when some murder or some ghost is going to appear, then there's thunder and lightning. So it is also indicating evil or horror. Three witches plan to meet Macbeth when he returns from the battle after defeating the rebel Macdonald. They reveal their motto: fair is foul, foul is fair. This is the motto of the witches. Fair is foul, foul is fair. That is, whatever is good is not good. That is, the path of honesty, the path of goodness is not good. But foul is fair. That is, whatever is evil is good. So hence, they know that Macbeth is a good man. He's ambitious, he's brave, but then, he cannot achieve everything by goodness. If we lead him onto the path of evil, he'll be able to do all these things easily. The opening scene introduces Macbeth, the tragic hero of the play. Yes, it's a tragedy because in the end, Macbeth meets his end. He dies at the end because of his ambition. The scene creates an atmosphere of mystery and horror for the action of the play. The witches, as well as the thunder and lightning, convey the sense of the supernatural elements at work. Yes, this play is also about supernatural. So, as I told you before, the thunder and lightning are symbols of, mystery, of horror. So, here we see that these thunder and lightning are conveying that something is going to happen. All right, it's creating the mystery and the kind of fear. Scene 1: a desert heat. Thunder and lightning enter three witches. First witch: when shall we three meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? Second witch: when the hurly-burly is done, when the battle's lost and won. All right, so the first witch says, where are we going to meet? Are we going to meet in this thunder and lightning, or will we meet in the rain? So the second witch says that when the hurly-burly is done, that is when all that, that is going on. Hurly-burly means the battle, the war, all that is going on. When it is over, then that is the time we'll meet. Third witch, that will be air, the set of sun. So the third witch says, yeah, that is, you mean to say the battle will, of course, you will meet when the battle is going to end. So the battle will end at sunset. So in the olden days, there was a rule whenever a battle was happening, there was a rule that the armies would stop fighting with each other during sunset. So in the sunset, the armies would go to rest, and the next morning again, they would be on the battlefield to fight. So therefore, here they know that if they are going to meet after the battle, this means they'll meet at sunset. First witch, where the place, that is, where are we going to meet? Second witch, upon the heath, that is, upon the heath means barren plain, upon the barren land. Third witch, there to meet with Macbeth. So what is the purpose of their meet? They want to meet Macbeth. So here you can get questions like 1 mark question, 2 mark questions. What time do the witches decide to meet? Why are they going to meet? Whom are they planning to meet? First witch, I come, Greymarkin. I'm coming, Greymarkin. Greymarkin is the name of a cat. Paddock calls. Paddock calls means a toad. Toad and cat are symbols of evil. Just like there are certain animals that are considered auspicious. There are certain animals which are considered inauspicious. So cat and toad are amongst them. Third witch, anon. Anon means I'm coming. All. Fair is foul and foul is fair. However, through the fog and filthy air. So foul is fair, fair is foul, and foul is fair. This is the key words. So if you are going to explain about the motto of the witches, that they wanted to trap Macbeth because they knew that Macbeth, in order to fulfill his ambitions, could take any shortcut, could take any even path, wouldn't hesitate to take it because he's very desirous. He wants to grow. Hence, for the witches, their purpose is that fair is foul and foul is fair. So that is, they feel that goodness is not actually good, but evil is good. All right. Evil is a good path, not honesty or sincerity. And hence, they now want to fly through filthy air. Now we come to Act 1, Scene 2. Duncan gets good reports of the battle. He is pleased to learn that Macbeth has killed the rebel Macdonald, defeated Macdonald's Norwegian allies and the Thane of Cawdor. Duncan announces the execution of Cawdor and confers on Macbeth the title of the Thane of Cawdor. The rising fortune of Macbeth is highlighted in the scene. He is referred to as a worthy gentleman, brave Macbeth, and Bellona's bridegroom. So these are the three synonyms or kind of adjectives given to Macbeth. That he's a worthy gentleman, brave Macbeth, and Bellona's bridegroom. I'll explain to you Bellona's bridegroom when we come to that speech. This scene prepares the way for the meeting of Macbeth and Banquo with the witches in scene 3. All right. So here now we come back to the place where in this scene we come back to the place where Duncan is. He is near Forest. And the people with him are along within enter Duncan, Malcolm, Donald Blaine, Lennox with attendants, meeting a bleeding sergeant. A bleeding sergeant has come from the battlefield to give news to Duncan about what has happened in the battle recently. Duncan, what bloody man is that? He can report as seemeth by his plight of the revolt, the newest state. All right. So Duncan looks at the sergeant and he questions, who's that bloody man? Because the sergeant is all wounded. He's full of blood. And he says, oh, it seems like this man is coming from the battlefield. Hence, he can give us the report of what is happening there. Malcolm, this is the sergeant. So Malcolm, that is Duncan's son, he introduces the man and he says that he is the sergeant who, like a good and hardy soldier, fought against captivity. Hail, brave friend, say to the king the knowledge of the broil, as thou didst leave it. All right. So Malcolm says, oh, he is the sergeant, he's coming from the battle, who has actually defended me against me becoming a captive or a prisoner of the enemy. So in the olden days, when the battle was fought, and if another army was defeated, mostly the soldiers or the king fighting that battle of the army who was defeated was taken as a prisoner. So they were not called prisoners, they were called captives. So here Malcolm is saying that I know this sergeant, he's a very brave man. He has fought for me, he has saved me from captivity. And he has all the knowledge of the broil. Broil means all the knowledge of the revolt that is happening. Sergeant, doubtful it stood. Doubtful it stood. So the question can come, what is it being referred to here? It is being referred to the battle that was fought between Macbeth and Macdonald, and also the revolt that took place between the Norwegian king and the Thane of Cawdor. All right, so here he says that the result of the battle was doubtful. It seemed as if Macbeth will not win. Why? Can be the question. The question can be, why was the result doubtful? The result was doubtful because Macbeth was alone and the Thane of Cawdor was supporting the Norwegian king. As two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. So he says, because why am I saying that the result was doubtful? Because these two people, Norwegian king and the Thane of Cawdor, they fought together as if two swimmers who are about to drown. They try all of their efforts to save themselves. Similarly, these two people were giving their efforts all together. The merciless Macdonald, worthy to be a rebel, for to that the multiplying villainies of nature do swarm upon him from the western isles of Kerns and gallows glass is supplied. All right. So he says, Why am I saying so? Because Macdonald, who was actually rebelling, with whom Macbeth was fighting, was a rebel. He was getting help from the Irish soldiers. The Irish foot soldiers were actually supporting him. Like I told you in the introduction, the Scotland and Ireland are a part of Great Britain. But at the time, they rebelled against England and they wanted to form an independent country. Ireland had fought for England for a very long time for independence, and now Ireland is an independent country. So this Macdonald was being helped by the Irish soldiers. To swarm upon him from the Western Isles. Western Isles is referring to Ireland, and you can write it down. It is Ireland. To swarm upon him from the Western Isles of kerns and gallow glasses is supplied. And kerns and gallow glasses means kerns and gallow glasses is that, they were foot soldiers who were providing him with all the weapons and ammunitions, all right? And fortune on his damned quarrel smiling. It seemed as if fortune was in favor of Macdonald because he was getting all the support that he needed. Showed like a rebel's war. War here is prostitute. Showed like a rebel's war means that is fortune was like, giving him so much of favoritism. Fortune was on his side, as if, when a prostitute is there, she gives all the pleasure to the man. So similarly here, he says fortune seemed to be so much in favor of Macdonald, as if, there was no chance of him losing the battle. But all's too weak for brave Macbeth. Well, he deserves that name, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel. But he says all that fortune, favoritism, everything was of no use because brave Macbeth, with his brandishing steel is being referred to the sword. With his sword, he actually uh, disdaining fortune. Disdaining fortune means he did not care for the fortune. He actually mocked at the fortune because he was alone. There was nobody to support him except the army of Duncan. And despite that, with his sword, he was able to defeat Macdonald. With smoked with bloody execution. Smoked, brandished steel with smoked with bloody execution. His sword was full of blood. All right. He executed. Executed means he killed, he slayed. Like valor's minion carved out his passage till he faced the slave. Like valor's minion carved out this passage. All right, as if his sword was hungry for blood. So he just, he barged into the army of the enemy. He made his way into the army of the enemy towards Macdonald, towards the slave. He faced the slave. Slave here is being referred to Macdonald. And he faced the slave, which never shook hands nor bade farewell to him. So as soon as he came face to face with Macdonald, he neither shook hands with him nor did he say anything to him. Rather, what did he do? Till he scammed him from the nave to the chaps. So what did he do? Without saying a word to Macdonald, he straight away took his sword and ripped him from nave that is from the navel to his chap, to his head, and fixed his head upon our battlements. And fixed his head upon our battlements, that is, he took Macdonald's head and put it as a sign of victory on our battlefield. All right. In olden days, kings used to do this. When they won a battle, they often slayed the enemy, beheaded the enemy, and took the head and took it on their sword, and they ran around the entire battlefield, showing the people that they had won the battle. It was a victory. Duncan, oh valiant cousin, worthy gentleman. Underline. So Sergeant had called him brave Macbeth. Now Duncan is calling him a worthy gentleman, valiant cousin. So as I told you, Macbeth is a relative of King Duncan. So I'll stop here because we've done Act 1, Scene 1, and I have done Act 2, Scene 2 till Sergeant's speech. It is going to be too long. I'll continue tomorrow, and we'll also get into Act 1, Scene 3. That's it for today. Stay tuned in. And also, if you want me to discuss the questions that can come for this scene, then you can write about it in the comment box.